program. Well, as you put these things in place, it's going to cost more money. The idea is don't put them in place. I mean, it sounded when I was listening to you speak that you're getting a lot of feedback from law enforcement, and that's been the override of industrial hemp for 40 years is that you can't grow marijuana and industrial hemp together, and it's the same. And I'm hearing this again, and that needs to be changed because it's not factual. And I would hope that the Colorado Department of Agriculture would move in that direction. And I don't see anything in here to help us obtain seed. I mean, we need certified seed out of Canada or Europe, and we're getting no help in doing that. I mean, last year it was like, hey, you know, grow it on your own. But I would like the department to try to work with some legislators and actually push towards getting us some certified seeds so that we can actually.
Well, this rule doesn't cover seeds, so let's
not
talk about the certified seed now, please.
All right, then that's basically what I wanted to talk about was the 2.6 just need to abolish. It's just bad language and it will create problems.
Okay, thank you. Thomas Ivory Jr.
Hi, my name is Thomas Ivory Jr. I'm the CEO and president of the Denver Hemp Division. I have a 4-tier business plan: production, processing, sales, and education. My main concerns for today are to protect the research and development farmer. I am a registered commercial farmer, but I feel the research and development farmer are the most important because they can develop a certified seed. And I know you just mentioned that certified seed is not to be talked about right now. I would like to know how we can figure that out, where information can be found on that. Not necessarily where a farmer can find certified seed, but how we can certify seed is my main concern. So then, again, going back to the research and developer, I feel it's very important to protect them so they can do the research and development so then the commercial farmer can then mass produce it. And then they don't have to be worried about the 0.3% THC, they can just worry about farming it. Going back on my second point is the research and developer would like to, I think it's Rule 2.7, the registering different land areas. I can understand your concerns about different registrations. My main concern is about the fees that are included in that. I know research and developers would like to do different land areas, especially here in Colorado, because certain things affect the cannabis plants, such as elevation, UV rays, and oxygen. And this could help us understand, especially the cannabinoid resins, a little bit better about how the plant grows these, especially here in Colorado, since we have a higher elevation compared to Kentucky or the other more well-known states that produce industrial hemp. And I do want to say that I appreciate you guys opening this conversation. I would like to know more how we can continue this discussion, how there can be a two-way conversation between the farmers and the department. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas.
Matt Burkholz. Joel Stanley.
Good morning.
Morning.
First off, I just want to say that our experience with the department has been very pleasant. We do feel that you're giving it your best shot at creating a viable industry, and we do appreciate that. I only have a couple of comments, and the first one is in the definitions, and it's both the definition of commercial and the definition of research and development. And I'm aware that you recognize that commercial hemp growers and people under commercial licenses are conducting their own research. Everyone is. This is a new industry to the U.S. Well, it's a revived industry to the U.S. But so you recognize in this room that we're all conducting research and development. However, if I'm ever to sit in a federal court and argue my existence under Section 7606 of the U.S. Farm Bill. That court will reference this language, not what was said in this room, and not the fact that we were recognized verbally as engaged in research and development. That's a big fear of mine, because the U.S. Farm Bill is a large part of the reason why states can develop their own industries at this point in time. And it is a bill that is geared for research. And to set in definition that research and development is only done by government or a university is to deny that the private sector and its research and development is indeed research and development, and that's done by definition. So I would like to ask the department to consider getting behind its farmers a little bit more in these definitions, and allowing these legitimate players to be considered by the department as engaged in research as well. Everything that we do will be research, from agricultural to market research. So that's point number one. I would like to ask the department to consider that.
Here's the halfway point on your time.
Okay. The other point was on section 2.4, and in the prior rules, this had read that no plant may be included in both the commercial and research and development registration. At this point, it reads, no plant shall be included in more than one registration, and registration is defined as a plot of land as well. If plant means variety, then this will lock the farmer's ability to diversify his assets from hail and natural disasters, things like this. So I would like further clarification on that, and maybe a change if it means what I think it means. But that's it. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Okay, Richard Rose.
I passed.
Veronica Carpio.
Hi, I'm Veronica Carpio. I'm with growhempcolorado.com as well as Colorado Hemp Coffee, and I'm also a hemp farmer and processor. Thank you guys, first of all, for everything that you do. The items that I want to go over super quick is definitely the word cannabis being used versus industrial hemp. I do feel that is an issue too. I would ask on section 2.2, instead of a 30-day prior to planting, that could be 2 weeks, because sometimes people purchase seed and are ready to plant them, and they don't have like 30 days. Sometimes we're up against the time frame. Section 2.4, I agree the verbiage is funky. That definitely needs to be clarified more. 2.6, this has been a super confusing topic to everybody. If the intent here is to try to stop people jumping through the med rules and the industrial hemp rules with cross-contamination and throwing your marijuana at the same place as your hemp, I would ask that this could be either totally removed, or it could say something to the effect that you can't have marijuana plants growing in your with state registered. So state registered marijuana plants cannot be growing with your industrial hemp registered plants. So basically a state license, you can't have dual licensing on one registration plot. A state license for marijuana or a state license for hemp can't maybe go together, or it just should be completely removed. 2.10, I think that's what it is, to 2.10, I'm asking for a cap on the acreage fees. If some farmer down the road, when we do get to this point, we have 1,500 acres of hemp growing, $1,500 times 5 can be pricey. So I would ask that there's some perhaps cap to make it feasible and cost effective for the farmers down the road when we have bigger plots. 2.12 is obviously a concern for more than just myself and other people. All plant material must be planted and harvested within the registration period. Again, this goes to affect mother plants, babies, clones, other R&D stuff you're doing in your commercial development. So I think that should be maybe considered or defined a little bit further, or if you can continue being flexible with us on that. And, oh, one of the hugest issues I saw in here was 4.3.4. I think that's where it moves over up to the page 7. It says greater than 1% THC concentrate may be provided to the appropriate law enforcement. This is talking about testing, and so when you test, you have low concentrate, they test in the GC. I would ask that this states greater than 1% THC on a dry weight basis, which is what the law says in our state constitution as well. When you use the word concentration, it opens up Pandora's box for all sorts of stuff, so I would ask that that says on a dry weight basis. Let me just make sure I went over everything. Oh, and the last final thing, and this may not be for this year, but I asked that if we're going to change licensing where public can't do R&D and we can only do commercial, that there be a third license introduced where it's a private type of license if people just want to do 5 to 10 plants for their own juicing or CBD efforts or whatever it is. So a private type of license which would allow also additional fees to be acquired by the state, and these people would not be interested in doing commercial or R&D, just a private type of cultivation for their own usage, juicing, eating the hemp seeds, CBD for their kids, whatever it is. So thank you guys, I really appreciate everything you do and making great efforts for us, so thank you.
Matt Brown.
Matt Brown, Denver, Colorado, representing myself. Like many people, I will keep my comments purely to section 2.6. The issues that I see here, one, it was interesting in the rules, as far as I can tell, this is the only rule that begins with a justification as to why the rule is needed, in order to minimize the possibility of cross-pollination of marijuana plants. To me, this this goes beyond any of the statutory basis that the Department of Agriculture has for creating rules. This gets into local control issues, buffer zones, zoning issues, etc. And more directly, it sets up the possibility that a person would have to choose which of their constitutional rights they choose to exercise. Do they prefer Section 2A of the Amendment 20, personal ability to cultivate marijuana plants? Have they chosen one of the statutory business licenses created under the Department of Revenue? Again, it gets into some stickiness. When you look at this, if we grant that there is some need to minimize the possibility of cross-pollination, it would only be with plants where the seed is intended to be used later on. There's nothing that's been presented by the department or from anybody here to suggest that a plant that is cross-pollinated with marijuana pollen would do something to change the makeup of that plant in this season. This tends to be an issue when we get into certified seed, which I understand is outside the scope of these rules. That's why I think anything regarding buffer zones needs to be removed at this point, save for the date when we're talking about certified seed, where we would then run a risk of having issues coming from cross-pollination, i.e. people growing hemp that they thought was a particular variety that had in fact been cross-pollinated, and in future generations was then creating a non-compliant over 0.3% THC plant. If this were then removed for the time being from the rules, instead waited till we get into sowing seed, we begin answering the questions of, where do people get seed down the road, years from now when some of the other issues have been issued or addressed, it seems like a much better time. In the meantime, this then creates nothing but overlapping responsibilities that are typically local control, a whole new level of complexity to this department's regulatory activities, and a potential issue with people exercising multiple constitutional rights and then creating violations between the programs. So again, I'd like to say 2.6, the time being, should be removed and saved for when we're only dealing with certified seed.
Thank you. That concludes everybody that had signed up to speak. Is there anybody that did not sign up that has decided they would like to speak? Okay.
Make one more quick comment.
So this hearing record is closed at 11:10 a.m.
Would you be so kind to just tell us the process, what happens next, like when the rules go into effect and, you know, if possible?
So the next steps now are we will review all of the testimony that was taken today. We'll review all the written comments that were submitted, and we will, again, more may have come in. They were coming in this morning, so there may be more sitting in email that we did not see before the hearing. So anything that comes in before 5 o'clock today will be considered. We will consider all of that and decide if there's any changes that we want to make to the proposed rule. Any changes made to that will be posted on the website and presented to the Ag Commission on February 11th. And at that time, the commission will make a recommendation to the Commissioner of Agriculture whether to approve the rules as presented at that meeting, make additional changes, or not approve them at all. If those are approved at that time, then the commissioner will adopt them. They'll be published in the Colorado Register and be effective on March 30th of 2018.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Pueblo County's
I know.
40-mile rule
They're
is in my backyard.
they can't do that.
No, and that's the way
They
the
can't.
original regulation.
40 miles comes into our county.